Siren time. Siren time.
Siren time. Does whatever a siren
makes
does.
noise. Makes our lives harder. Look out. It is siren time. Sup, nerds? It's basketball. Welcome to Horse, a basketball podcast about everything except for the wins and losses. My name is Mike Schubert, and I'm joined by my trusted co-host, the Bulls going 1-1 in the NBA playoffs, and the Knicks going 1-1 in the NBA playoffs to this time. But the stakes were different, so that's not great outcomes. Is Adam Alwal? Adam, how's it going?
Well, I mean, you said the Bulls went 1-1 in the playoffs, but I think we all know that they went 1-1 in the play-in, missing the playoffs. But you know what? I'm proud of them. They played hard. It was a tough loss, but given what I thought might happen a few months ago, I was kind of just happy to see them get into any sort of competitive game. It was a fun comeback against the Raptors. I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but look, were they going to win the championship? They sure weren't. So I guess maybe it spared me some additional time watching them get shellacked by the Bucks.
But, you know, them winning that play-in game, they were one of the first two 10-seed teams that had never happened before this season, where 10-seed teams won the play-in game. So, yeah, the Bulls and the Thunder both did it this time. That was the first time that ever happened in the 3 years that there have been the official NBA play-in tournament. Is that like the official name of it?
I think it's called the play-in tournament.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And I got to watch game 1 of the Knicks-Cavs series in Las Vegas. And then I watched game 2 on a plane home from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Game 2, not as good.
No, not as good. So I think watching it on a smaller, worse, bad television is probably more appropriate viewing for that game. So yeah. I'm feeling all right about the Knickerbockers. We got one out of the two. There's a chance we can make this happen, which is exciting.
You know, when you are in the playoffs, if you're on the road first, all you want is that split. You want to split those first two games and then come back home. I guarantee you Madison Square Garden is going to be cooking.
Yes.
The celebs are going to be out. I mean, Spike Lee travels with the team, but everybody else usually it's a New York thing. So I'll be interested to see which famous people are there, and I guess you'll be home as we record this. Mike is on the other side of the world, but you'll be home in a few weeks, and then it won't be probably as difficult for you to watch games. Like, what time are you watching games now?
What I've been doing, honestly, now is coming back from going out and exploring either Japan with our editor, Kensei Soramaki, which was super fun.
So cool.
Such a cool thing that happened. Honestly, I've just been like coming back and then watching those like 10-minute condensed versions of the games and then not knowing what the outcome is, and then just watching that. I've been having Kelly specifically fire up the laptop, because if you search it on YouTube, like sometimes it would be like Donovan Mitchell scores 38 points as the Cavs beat the ever-living crap out of the Knicks, something like that. So I've had Kelly pull up the video and then I watch it, just because I haven't had the time to like fully vacation and then also work and then also watch a full-fledged basketball game. So I've just been watching those. But those 10-minute recaps, it was good when the Knicks won. And for the other one, once we were down by 20, I was kind of just fast forwarding every 15 seconds, be like, does this game ever get close? And it never did.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I stopped watching in the fourth quarter and watched the film The Menu.
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great.
It was great, yeah. But
did you know what it was about before you started?
I knew that it was like kind of depraved.
Okay.
That's kind of all that I knew about it was like, it's going to be screwed up. I don't know how or the context.
I knew literally nothing about it. I was like, I think it's a drama about a restaurant, and let me tell you, folks.
Well, I guess it is, but
it's a little different.
Yeah, but that's how poorly the Knicks played in game 2, is that I would have rather watched that than the fourth quarter. But like I said, all you have to do is go split those two games on the road. I have been very conscious of not preemptively texting you. We have group chats, we have our Google chats. So as a weirdo who also DVR sports sometimes when it is necessary, I've been very respectful of that. But it's funny what you're saying about having Kelly fire up the laptop, because I forget if I've mentioned this before, early baseball reference here, but back in the days of no DVR existing, when people my age would record things on what was called a VCR, for you young folks, Google that. I would, my first job in high school, I worked at humble brag here, I worked at a combo Dunkin' Donuts, Baskin Robbins, and the Cubs notoriously play games in the afternoon. So this was in a playoff race in 2004. I was working this job where I got paid, I don't know, $6 an hour. And I would have my mom record the games on VHS. But I was so concerned that I would be able to tell whether or not the Cubs had won or lost just based on her voice and expression that I would come home, not say hello to her, and then just like run to the basement. It's like, no, I'm going to know. You got a bad poker face. I'm going to know if they won.
Kelly thankfully has had a pretty good poker face where she acted the same both times when it was clear Knicks victory and clear Knicks defeat. So she's been holding it down, which is nice. But enough talk of this. Let's get ready to talk about various basketball things and drama and all sorts of spicy things to cover in the NBA. Before we can get into that, though, and gosh, we'll have to do a separate thing for WNBA because the WNBA draft happened and we're not even going to have time to get to that, but we'll get to that in the future when it's more off-season-y. Maybe we'll get Jordan Liggins back in the mix. But before we can talk about the NBA playoffs and all sorts of related things, we got to get prepped in the Teal Memorial locker room. Teal in playoff performance mode. Teal's ready to go. Full-fledged peak performance.
That's what we love to hear. You got to be ready to go this time of year.
You got to be ready to go. You know who else is ready to go?
I would say our patrons.
Our patrons. They are ready to go. They are supporting the show. And especially people who are ready to go are our producer level patrons, supporting us at the highest tier. And in response, we say their name every episode to thank them. So shout out to Polly Burge, Kendra Hadley, Salvatore Testa, Trust the Process, Siobhan Ellsbury, He Sells Seashells, Don't Go Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Roast Beef Debris, Kay the Conqueror, Basketball is Life 2, Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Reed, Weird Questions, Steph Curry for 3, and the tie, no good. Oh, uh-oh.
No bang. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, he did have that cool running floater, and if it went in, that would have been an all-timer, but alas, it did not go in.
I just expect every shot he shoots to go in.
Yeah, that's the correct approach. Hi, Trish, Ginger Spurs Boy, Nicole Arsenault, Something Mean About the Knicks, Stubby Boardman Gets Paid, Chase Underulo, Mr. Bubbles Plays Ball, and Bunny's Not a Rabbit?
There we go.
You know what else makes me say there we go?
Probably having sponsors.
Having sponsors. It's a lovely thing to have. And this episode is brought to you by Tab for a Cause. Tab for a Cause is the easiest way to raise money for charity. All you got to do is go to tabforacause.org/horse and install an extension to your browser. And every time you open a tab, you get a new picture of a very pristine, serene, nature photograph. They change it every day or so, and there might be some ads in the corner of your screen, but those ads help raise money for charity, and you get to pick what charity the funds go to, which is nice. They have charitable organizations that give water to people in need, education to people in need, get people out of bail bonds for jail situations. So a lot of different organizations that you can support, as we always do when we do these ad reads. How many tabs do you have open right now? Are you being a tab monster?
Yes, Michael, I'm being a tab monster. Let me count in the interest of honesty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
17. All right. Well, I'm happy to say I only have 2 tabs open, and it's just the chat and then something for the episode. Pretty proud. But what I'm going to do right now.
You're better than me?
No, I don't. What you think? Hey, look.
You're not raising money for a good cause? Is that what you're telling me?
I was going to say, every time you open a tab, you get a heart, and then you get to give those hearts. I'm going to give my hearts to a charity right now. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give it to Give Directly. It offers a simple approach to addressing poverty. They cut out the intermediaries, and they allow poor families to decide for themselves what they need most. So boom, I'm donating 790 hearts to them. Huzzah. So again, if you want to add that to your browser, you can go to tabforacause.org/horse today.
Very cool.
Now, cool things. Now, speaking of cool, you got any cool things on the horizon there, Adam Amawala?
Do I have any cool things on the horizon? I don't think I have anything new since the last time we recorded one of these. I guess the main thing I haven't mentioned is that the series that I shot a couple years ago is going to be streaming soon. Yes. I don't know exactly when and where. I also don't know what that will mean for streaming in other countries because all of that is a little murky. But if you want to check out more information about the series that I filmed, it was a 6-episode series, kind of a dramedy would be the genre to describe it in. I got to play the lead in a series called Undercover Comic. If you want to follow updates about that, that is at under.cover.comic. Instagram, we have our first screening coming up at New York Cinefest, which is really cool. That is on Sunday, May 7th. Let me make sure I have that date right. Yeah, that's right. Sunday, May 7th. If you're in New York, it's the block that starts at 4:45 p.m. So, yeah, you know where to find my stand-up dates, but I would say that's the other non-stand-up-y thing that is most exciting for me right now.
Awesome.
What about you?
I'm very excited to watch that. I cannot wait till I can stream it. All the little clips on Instagram have been super fun. As far as me, I don't have any new confirmed shows since when I last announced Seattle, Vancouver, Lakewood, Ohio, Cleveland, Pontiac, Michigan, Detroit, or Toronto, Ontario. But I do have some shows that I would just say pencil in later in the year. If you're in Chicago, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, DC, Vienna, technically, Philly and New York City and Hartford. Those are all like potential ones that should be confirmed later in the year.
Okay.
So that's more of, if you're just thinking of coming to a show and you're like, oh, I'm going to go really far for one of the other shows. If you live near one of those cities, just wait. That should be happening. And we've also talked about maybe trying to get Adam to come to some shows and do little crossover things. Like we'll see if that's possible as well.
We have. I don't want to get people too excited, but it is possible.
It's a possibility. But yeah, if you want to get tickets to TNO shows, and some of them are TNO/Potterless shows, you can just go to my website, schub.es/tour. With that complete, we can get into NB Q&A. Adam, what's our Q that we can A for this episode?
Now, as you recall, a few episodes ago, we got a Q from Linda Tarr, who suggested they would become a patron if we answered their question on air. We kept the receipts. They did become a patron, and we have kind of a similar situation going on here. We got an email from Tom Campbell, and Tom says, becoming a patron, and Tom says, subject, becoming a Patreon supporter. Greetings again, happy horse boys. I would like to tell you personally that if the Bucks, my NBA team, win the championship this year, I will, for one episode only, become a producer-level patron. So go Bucks, and hopefully Giannis wins MVP as well to cap off the season. You know what? We will accept that, and we are keeping receipts. But we did also get a question from Tom. The question says, what are the different levels of basketball between America and other countries? Hello, Horsemen, or the Horse Boys, you may choose. I've been listening to your show since 2021 and believe that it is one of the major contributing aspects that has given me my love of basketball. I'm Australian born. Shout out to Polly Burridge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what's funny is the way it's written. Obviously I know Polly Burridge, but it was written like Paul E, like with an E in the middle. But anyway, shout out to Polly Burridge. Last year had my first competitive game of basketball against another school. The question is, the skill of some of the people that I played were certainly above average, but I wondered how that might compare to kids who play in America or any other country. So it's not an easy question to answer, but I do think that the short answer for me, and this is just hypothesizing, would be that the gap is closing. Like basketball is becoming an increasingly global sport. Now we know that in Finland and other places there are different sized and heighted rims. But in general, I think that basketball has gone from a largely American sport to a worldwide sport. I don't know how we can really quantify this, but what are your thoughts on that question?
I think it really just comes down to, if you look at a country where basketball is more popular, just like the average person playing would be better. And I just think that more and more countries are becoming solid at basketball. In the past, in the Olympics or in a FIBA tournament, you would just have like a couple of countries that would be ones, at least from my perspective, to worry about. Like in the Olympics, it's like, all right, if we play Spain, we got to worry about them. And it's like, if we play France, we got to worry about them. Now, I think there's more and more countries, like Australia is formidable. And a lot of the countries where some of the better players in the league right now, like Serbia, where Nikola Jokic is from, those countries are getting more and more solid players. Even countries like Lithuania are becoming more solid. So I just feel like it is getting to the point, like you said, where that is raising, and it's not necessarily such a big disparity. But I still think if you have a country where it's more popular, like when I was in France and I played pickup ball in France, like people were pretty good, but basketball is pretty popular in France. I would imagine if I was playing pickup ball in London, that the quality would be lower. Or if I was playing pickup ball in Denmark, it wouldn't be as high as something like Latvia, where at least you have a Kristaps Porzingis, someone that people can watch in the NBA, or like Australia, where you've got a good number of players in the league. Canada's getting a whole lot better too. So I think that it just comes down to Where is it more of an influence? More people just start playing younger and the general population is better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that like the median skill level American player is probably higher than most countries, just because of how long basketball has been here and how many people have grown up with it. But I think what's really cool about it, and the internet is largely responsible for this, is that everything is just so much more accessible than it used to be. And that goes for everything in the world. But like, for example, if you're some kid growing up literally anywhere in the world, if you have internet access and a basketball, which are not things to take for granted, but if you have those two things, you can find thousands of hours of resources of people walking you through drills or dribbling techniques or any of these things that just wouldn't have existed years ago. And I think that's going to help close the gap, not to mention the fact that the NBA continues to actively do games in other countries, right? Like that is a real point of emphasis for the NBA is we're going to go play a game in Paris. We're going to play a game in London. We're going to play a game in wherever it is. Yeah, it'll be interesting to think about that question 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, because I do think it will be very much a global sport, even more so than it is now. But yeah, good question. Hard to really quantify an answer, but I think that's where we stand, and hopefully that clears that up for you. And I don't know that I'm rooting for the Bucks, but if they win, we've kept the receipts. So
if they win, we are $15 divided by 2 richer, minus whatever Patreon fees take out. So, we're...
I'll take those $5.
Yeah, we're looking at some money. That could be pretty good. But also, I do want to give a shout out that previously you had mentioned the person who said that they would become a patron, and you said that they are Linda Tarr, which is their Twitter display name, which is a joke. It's Sally Tamarkin. No, I think it's fun just because Linda Tarr, I think, is a joke on Lydia Tarr from that movie Tar, which I have not seen.
Oh, hilarious. Also a movie that I clicked on the plane and I was like, 2 hours and 40 minutes. We're landing in an hour and 50 minutes. I have to watch the menu.
Yeah, hey, menu short runtime. Gotta
apologies,
appreciate it.
Sally.
No. It's literally, how would you have known? Well, on that note, let's get into full court press. Get it like the news.
Let's do it.
So the NBA playoffs are going on. The play-in has completed. We've got the playoffs going on right now. Most of the series are about 2 games complete. And there is one series in particular that has been very, very interesting from a basketball perspective in the first game. And then the second game from just a mess. And that would be the Kings and the Warriors. Probably the largest disparity between team everyone wants to see win and team everyone wants to see lose.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Now, the most drama that's coming from this is recently Draymond Green, in classic Draymond Green fashion, stomped on Domantas Sabonis' chest during a bit of a...
As one does.
As one does when you play basketball. It's a very normal move. It is not normal at all. And it was a weird thing where, like, Sabonis fell and then Draymond was like kind of tangled up in it. And from one angle, it looked like Sabonis was keeping Draymond's foot, like holding it down a little bit. And then Draymond understandably did the thing like where you get angry at someone for doing that, but then not understandably took it a step too far. And rather than just like get his leg,
literally,
rather than just get his leg free, he got his leg free and then just really stomped on Sabonis's chest and then like jumped off it and tried to make it look like it was natural. So it was this weird like sandwich of like natural reaction, very unnatural thing, and then trying to make it look like a natural thing. Like I got tied up by Sabonis.
Right.
And it was just very unnecessary. He got a flagrant 2, which is the highest degree of unnecessary foul you can get. It has an automatic ejection. And while they were reviewing it, the crowd was obviously booing him because this game was in Sacramento. And Draymond, like he's in the WWE, was like hyping up the crowd and doing the like, let me hear it noises. And I think because of that, more so than what he did, he is suspended for game 3.
The thing about it is, I don't really know how he can defend what he did. He's trying to say that, oh, Sabonis held on to me, so I was just trying to get untangled. But instant replay exists. This is not something that happened one time and now nobody ever sees it again. You can clearly see him get untangled, make the decision to stomp on Sabonis's ribs, and then put his entire body weight on his right foot and do this weird, like, It's almost like a skateboard trick without a skateboard. Like he jumps off him. It's the same energy. This is a very specific reference. If you remember that old thing from Mad TV of Stewart, where he's like, look what I can do. And then he does some like weird flaily move with his body. It was very much like that. I will put the clip to that if I can find it. But the fact that he is riling up the crowd, the NBA does not take that lightly. Like, this is a league where things have gone really awry in terms of player and fan interactions. Obviously, I'm most notably talking about malice in the Palace when the Pistons-Pacers game turned into a full-on brawl in and out of the stands. But the NBA does not want that. And the fact that he is, I mean, whatever the opposite word of remorseful is, that's Draymond Green. And he's just doubling down on an already really reckless decision. And he's got a long track record of doing this. I mean, there have already been videos floating around in the past couple days since this happened of just compilations of Draymond doing really screwed up things, kicking people in the nuts. He's, I'm trying to think of other examples, punching Jordan Poole in the face, his own teammate, which ironically in the prep for what's going to be the main segment of this show, which I don't want to reveal, but I went back and listened to our episode from before the season. And one of the big topics was, how are the Warriors going to do given that Draymond just sucker punched one of their best players? We'll see what Dre says about it on the podcast. But to me, like, I just don't know that there's any defending what he did.
No, I think the only defending that you can make was made by JJ Redick pretty astutely on ESPN First Take, and we can put a link to that as well. But like, Sabonis has done like some kind of dirty plays leading up to it, but it's not necessarily like so dirty that it would warrant that. There's just been like little ticky-tack things here and there. And there was that one play at the end of game one where Draymond kind of like fell on Sabonis, and it looked like Draymond was sitting on Sabonis to prevent Sabonis from getting back on defense. But if you watch the replay, Sabonis was actually holding Draymond back. So it's kind of like the reverse of the thing that happened with the foot, where everyone thought like, oh, Sabonis was holding onto his foot. But what Draymond did was a step too far, as you said, literally. But then there's an alternate angle where Sabonis was actually trying to stop Draymond from stepping on his head. And that's like actually what happened. So it's this weird thing where like, if you looked at each of the plays, in the one where the first one, it looked like Draymond was sitting on Sabonis. Actually, Sabonis was holding Draymond back. And then on the other one, it looked like Sabonis was holding Draymond's leg, but actually it was just like basically completely Draymond's fault. So I think that's the only defense, but still, it does not warrant step on chest and then rile up the crowd and all this other stuff. Like, there's definitely different ways to handle it. And, you know, whether it was intentional or not, like if the game plan was like, let's get Draymond Green agitated so that he does something silly, like if that was the game plan, it worked. And we'll just have to see if the Kings pull this off.
Yeah. And if you're Draymond's teammates on the Warriors, how do you feel about someone who's an integral part of your team doing something like that and getting ejected from the game? Like, you're actively costing the team when you really need to win that game to tie the series 1-1. Like, the Warriors lost game one in a very close game. Steph Curry had a chance to tie it at the end, didn't make the shot, and now they're down 0-2. And look, the Warriors might come back and win this series, but it's going to be a lot more difficult without Draymond for the end of game two and for all of game three. And most notably in Draymond's career, Draymond getting suspended in the 2016 NBA Finals more than likely cost the Warriors a final. So I think if I'm on the Warriors, I'm getting a little fed up with this being a repeated thing. The only thing I will say is that Domantas Sabonis should look into a career in soccer, because, wow, the reaction of getting stepped on, looking like he had just been shot in the chest, to then playing 3 minutes later, a little funny.
I think if you're a Warriors teammate, you got to be upset. I know for the 2016 finals, they were always saying, you know, Draymond plays with this intensity, and without that intensity, we wouldn't be where we are, blah, blah, blah. That makes more sense. Especially because what happened in the 2016 finals was a heat of the moment in the game. LeBron was actively trying to instigate something by stepping over Draymond in that way, and he reacted. This one feels different because the stomp was unnecessary, and really what was the most unnecessary was like riling up the crowd and stuff. Like, that's where you're not just being an intense player, like you're being a dick, and you don't need to do this. And I think this one is so much worse than anything he's ever done, that if I was his teammate, I would be furious. And I don't see a world where he's on the Warriors after the season. I think he's gone. I don't think they're bringing him back.
I think that was probably already the case anyway, but especially now, and especially if they lose in the first round.
The other thing to talk about is one that's bad and there's no fun in it. Miles Bridges, who we've talked about in a couple of other episodes, he has been suspended for this entire season and not a part of a team because he had a domestic abuse case where he was found guilty. And the NBA finally laid down a ruling of what his suspension would be. And what they said was that he should be suspended for 30 games, but actually it's only 10 because they say that he's served 20 games of it already, which doesn't make sense because he's not been on a team this entire year. It wasn't like he was on the Hornets, his previous team, and just didn't play this whole year. His contract was up. He was a free agent. So he hasn't been on a team. So first off, I don't know where 30 games comes from. That's ridiculous.
Right. If anything, it would make more sense to say like, well, he already missed 82 games, which also wouldn't be true. But at least to suggest that he missed a full NBA season because of it. But to your point, if you're not under contract, like I just don't understand.
Yeah, you were already not hired by a team because of these reasons. What is the harm in suspending it for further? But like, where do you come up with 30 games? And then where do you come up with 20 of them have been served? Like, it's so weird and it's just absolutely bizarre. I just don't get it at all.
Yeah, and we shared the details of this, and I don't really feel like recapping it. We can post a link to some articles that detail what he did, but like, it is absolutely heinous and egregious what he did. And the idea that effectively the outcome is a slap on the wrist and, hey, go make millions of dollars. It's just a really bad look for a league that has claimed that they actually care about shit like this. It's pretty obvious that they don't. And I'm not sure who's going to sign him. I hope their PR department is ready to defend that decision. But you and I both said at the time, like, this is not somebody who should be in the league, period. And the fact that the outcome ultimately is going to be, he missed a season where he wasn't signed by anybody anyway, and then he's going to miss 10 games at the start of next year. Like, that is the NBA's response to truly despicable, like sociopathic level domestic violence in front of a child, endangering a child. It's hard to stomach.
Yeah, it's evil stuff. And there is a basketball writer, Katie Heindel. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name properly. She has a very great Substack called Basketball Feelings. And I'll put a link to what she wrote about this situation. And the tweet that she did sharing this article, I think sums it up perfectly. She wrote, "The last time I wrote about Miles Bridges, I asked, what is the value of a woman? The NBA just answered 10 games. And that can't be said any better. And it's a really good article. And she goes through, all the different things, what this means, and just kind of the message, and, better than we can say it. We'll put a link to it on the episode page at horsehoops.com. Highly recommend. Now, before we close out Full Court Press, let's end it with a cherry on top that is more fun and silly and goofy, because this involves just the goodness of the Sacramento Kings and putting down noted curmudgeon Colin Cowherd, who's one of these sports talking head people that just gets mad at John Wall for dancing and things like this. Colin Cowherd claimed that the Sacramento Kings beam is a massive waste of energy, but the Sacramento Bee counteracted that claim with reporting that says it only uses the wattage of an average dishwasher. So light the beam is energy efficient.
What a friggin' dweeb.
What's great is the number one comment on Reddit from user Hokage Ezio is, quote, "Look, I'm okay with a multi-billion-dollar building to watch people dribble a ball for 3 hours, but I draw the line at lasers into the sky."
I mean, that comment is the ultimate "you must be fun at parties" sort of thing.
100%. It's so silly. He truly just hates fun. He did this whole giant tirade where he hated John Wall because John Wall did the Dougie in his first game. And you know what? John Wall is so good at the Dougie. It was a service he did to the world by doing the Dougie. You want to literally...
John Wall should only Dougie and never throw a first pitch at a baseball game.
It's bad. We'll put a link to it.
Oh, wow. It makes the 50 Cent first pitch look respectable.
So that will be our fun note where we end Full Court Press, Get Out Like the News. Before we get into the second half of the episode, we're going to have a break where you'll hear some advertisements. Some of them will be read by us. Other ones are locally inserted and read by other folks. And when those ads are complete, we'll finish out this episode of Horse. Adam, how about you tell us what we've got in store for the remainder of this episode?
I certainly will. So sometimes we do use your fan suggestions for episode content, and we do thank you for sending those in. Let it be known that anytime you send in a 3-on-3 suggestion, that sort of thing, we do file that away, and we try to get to them when we can. But we got a really nice email from a listener of ours named Caleb with a K. The subject says, just wanted to email the Horseman. The message says, sup nerds, it's a basketball fan. I'm a 14-year-old located in Canada who loves your podcast, among others. After some quick math, I listen to over 100 hours of podcasts every month, and at least a third of that is listening to Horse on repeat.
Very
How
cool.
about that? Most of the rest consists of Shoobs. Is it okay if I call you that?
100%,
I feel like it is.
My dad calls me Shoobs. It's totally fine.
That's hilarious. Most of the rest consists of Shoob's other podcasts and Adam's albums on multiple occasions. This is like the nicest email we've ever gotten. I'd like to thank you for all of the work that you put into it, and I probably don't even remotely know the amount of work that you guys put in. I'd love to become a patron, but obviously, as a 14-year-old without a job, I have next to no money. I have a few ideas of what I'd name myself if I were a producer. And you know what? We're going to give you an honorary patronage. You let us know next time. You send us an email. You let us know what you want your patron name to be, and we'll give you at least one shout out. But I want to commend you, Caleb, on an excellent suggestion. You suggested that we should go back through our drama draft from before this season and figure out how correct we were, right? Maybe re-rank them, that sort of thing. So what we're going to do, I went back, I listened through our drama draft. Some things we were very correct about, some things we were way off base. So we're going to go through our list and let you know how we did. Now, Caleb also suggests that we could do kind of like end of season awards and see who we think deserves them. I don't know if we'll have time for that. If not, we may do that on another episode. But Caleb, thank you for listening. Thank you for the great suggestion. And with that being said, it is time for us to see how we did on our beginning of season drama draft. So let's get into it.
Let's do it. I love it. I was genuinely thinking of a way in which we could revisit the drama draft to see how we did. So the fact that Caleb gave this suggestion, I think, is absolutely perfect. And I think the timing is perfect because this right now, as we're recording this on April 20th, 420, haha, if you're in America, but as of now, it's 12:02 a.m. here in Korea. So April 21st for me. But this is the perfect timing because it's the first round of the playoffs. So some of the things we'll talk about are going to bleed into fun storylines to look out for in the playoffs, which is something we always like to cover on Horse. So I feel like this is a perfect little two birds, one stone situation where we can talk about what happened in the season and also talk about things to look out for as the playoffs continue and go on for the next, couple of months.
Absolutely. All right. So the first pick in the drama draft, we went with the Lakers. The thought process there, that was my pick, and I felt
So you're the odds, I'm the even. So let's have us revisit our own picks. So let's start with you, number one, Lakers.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So I picked Lakers number one overall. My speculation was that there would be continued Russell Westbrook drama. Also that they had added Patrick Beverley. I literally compared it to adding Everclear to a Long Island iced tea. and also continued concerns about Anthony Davis's health. I guess kind of all of those things were true, and yet at the end of the season, the Lakers got the 7th seed, so they were the top play-in seed. They came back against the Timberwolves, won their play-in game. Austin Reeves has been an absolute revelation this year. They also traded for Rui Hachimura, who's been really good. So ultimately, there was not as much drama in LA as I expected. They definitely have a chance now to get out of the first round. They're currently tied 1-1 with the Grizzlies, but I feel like I was right, and then now I'm not as right. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of drama, now it's...
Yeah, you would have been right if we did it at the All-Star break, but unfortunately, the Lakers made some trades at the trade deadline, and they've been very good ever since. So I think that was... you so close, but winning solves everything, and I think that was the problem. Like, all of the things you predicted happened, but they got watered down by the Lakers winning basketball games.
Right, and now the Lakers definitely have a chance because Ja Morant is kind of a question mark after what looked like it could have been a really gruesome hand injury, which fortunately is not broken, but he missed game 2, and we'll see what his availability is moving forward. But why don't you tell us who your number one pick was?
Yeah, I picked the Celtics at number 2 overall, and I guess I have to credit the Celtics. I think I got to hand it to the Celtics because my main thing was the Ime Udoka situation was really bad, but the Celtics basically just fired him, and like that didn't get dramatic. They were just like, all right, you're gone, bye. And then they played well, and the new coach handled everything well. So I think this was probably the biggest whiff because they just really didn't have that much drama. There was still some weird stuff that happened with Ime Udoka coming up as like potential coaches for other teams, but it's not really the Celtics' fault. They handled their business and kind of just kicked him to the curb.
Yeah. My next pick arguably should have been the number one overall pick, and we should have known better. The Brooklyn Nets. And the wild thing about it was that my speculation did not include anything about Kyrie Irving. So how foolish am I? But my main rationale was that KD had wanted to be traded last offseason. That didn't happen, especially after the Rudy Gobert trade, which we'll talk about a bit later. But it was clear that the package that it would take to get Kevin Durant would have been too much for anyone else to offer for KD, at least at that time. And also just not knowing how Ben Simmons would play. Those things ended up being true. But the main thing that we missed, or that I missed, was that Kyrie Irving is always, I don't know if I could have predicted that Kyrie Irving would promote anti-Semitic films on his Twitter, but maybe that would have been a good prediction for me. Long story short, the Nets ended the season without Kevin Durant, who was traded to the Suns, without Kyrie Irving, who was traded to the Mavericks. They're currently losing 0-2 to the Philadelphia 76ers, and I expect that they will get dispatched pretty easily here in the first round. So there is always drama in Brooklyn. There's always money in the banana stand, and that's where things are at.
Now, number 4, I had picked the Phoenix Suns, thinking there would be very high expectations of them, and Chris Paul would be getting a little bit older. There was some DeAndre Ayton contract drama and drama between him and the coach, and then the Jay Crowder situation. Again, I think this is kind of like the Lakers, where it's like those things all happened, and they were a bit underwhelming, but once you trade for Kevin Durant, nothing matters anymore. So I feel like the Suns had some grumbliness, and then they got Kevin Durant. Nobody cares anymore. And the Jay Crowder situation wasn't as dramatic as it could have been. So again, I think I'm just kind of 0 for 2 on my early picks here.
I next went with the Charlotte Hornets, and it's interesting how much kind of bookended the season in terms of when we initially recorded this episode, the two main things we talked about on Full Court Press that episode were Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole and the Miles Bridges situation. I don't know how much drama there really was in Charlotte this year because they were just pretty bad. I think it was just kind of a bland season. But the two main things I mentioned were Bridges' legal troubles, and then James Bouknight had also been arrested at that time. And it just seemed like there was a lot of off-the-court drama happening in Charlotte. But if anything, I can't even think of a single thing that happened during the Hornets season.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of the opposite of drama.
They were just very bad and disappointing in like a not fun way. Like LaMelo Ball was hurt, one of their best players. And
Right.
Yeah, I think the big thing here, it was similar to the Ime Udoka thing where you had made this prediction because if they tried to do something with Miles Bridges, it would be bad. And then they just didn't. They just kind of pushed it to the side. So I think, credit to them for not doing anything, but we have to wait until we see if they don't try to bring him back. Because if they try to bring him back now, no team should touch it. No team should touch it. It should just be like Trevor Bauer in baseball. Let him go and just nobody deal with him.
Go play elsewhere.
Yeah. Get ready to learn Japanese, buddy, or whatever. Play somewhere else.
Yeah.
So number 6, I ended up picking the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's go. This was a huge
great pick.
And it was a risky one at the time because it was just they made a big trade for Gobert. And my thought was just, will the Gobert trade pay off? And I said, this is an all-in type move that risks their future. The Rudy Gobert trade might go down as the worst trade in NBA history. It has a potential to be the worst ever. It's really bad because
bad. They gave up a lot.
I'm going to pull it up. It's so bad. The thing is, not only NBA.com, Jazz trade Rudy Gobert to Wolves in multiplayer deal. The Timberwolves received Rudy Gobert, nothing else. The Jazz received, so this is everything the Minnesota Timberwolves gave away to get Rudy Gobert. Malik Beasley, pretty good at basketball. Patrick Beverley, decent at basketball. Leandro Balmaro, never heard of this man before. Walker Kessler.
Must be on the Hornets.
Walker Kessler, the number 22 pick in the draft, who's turned out he's probably going to be either second or third in Rookie of the Year voting. And he's basically just better Rudy Gobert. This season.
Better and younger Rudy Gobert. Much younger.
Better, younger, and cheaper because Rudy Gobert's on a huge contract and he didn't play very well this year. Walker Kessler is basically an incredibly similar type player to Rudy Gobert, and he was just better. Like, if you try to...
Yeah, and we also didn't mention that Rudy Gobert punched his teammate during a game. That happened. He missed the play-in game against the Lakers because he punched his teammate, Kyle Anderson, right?
Yes.
I think it was Kyle Anderson.
He punched Kyle Anderson, a.k.a. Slow-Mo.
During a timeout.
During a timeout. Kyle Anderson, whose nickname is Slow-Mo because he just isn't fast. Not even that he's fast. He just, like, moves in a weird, like, slow way. It's this thing where, like, James Harden was good because he could decelerate really well. So it's, like, not an insult, but it's a wonderful nickname. But he did punch Slow-Mo in the shoulder because Slow-Mo told him to shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
just a great interaction.
Maybe he deserved that. Either way, keep that in the locker room. Mm-hmm. That should not be on camera. Nah. And the Timberwolves were like, we have to suspend you. Yeah. What else can we do?
Continuing on, though, Walker Kessler, who just like, if you tried to redo the trade where it's just, what if we traded Rudy Gobert for Walker Kessler? They would say no. Like, the Jazz would say no. He's just better than Rudy Gobert was this year. Walker Kessler and Jared Vanderbilt, who's good at basketball. And then 4 first-round picks and a pick swap. So basically, like 5 picks, a rookie, so kind of like 6 picks, and then 3 solid players. And then the Timberwolves weren't very good. Granted, Karl-Anthony Towns was out for most of the year, much to your demise of your fantasy basketball team. But maybe they would have been a better team, but like, this is the type of trade you make if you want to be a top 4 team. And even if Cat was there, like, what would they have been? 5? Like 6? Like, I don't know that they would have been that good. So I knocked this pick out of the freaking park.
Yeah. The Timberwolves, they did get into the playoffs, but they're currently down 0-2 to the Nuggets. I have every expectation that they will lose that series. You never know. I feel like Minnesota has a good fan base, so it wouldn't shock me if they go back to Minnesota and win at least one of those games, maybe 2. But I certainly do not expect them to get past a very, very good Nuggets team. No. But yeah, great pick. That's, I would say, of what we've done so far, that is certainly your best pick. Maybe your best pick of the whole draft as we look at it.
Yeah, I think so.
Next up, I went with the 76ers. The rationale for me was just that, like, the whole trust the process thing was kind of wearing thin on Philly fans. Now, this one, I don't know that I can assess it until after the playoffs are done, because I do think that if it looks like the Sixers will get to the next round, but like, let's say they go out in the second round and don't play very well, I could see this being a situation where people have really lost their patience because they're like, we've been told for how long that, like, this year's going to be the year. And if it's not, I could see there being drama. But in terms of regular season drama, I don't think there was a lot.
No.
Like, Embiid played great. They are a very solid team. And I don't know that I certainly would not rank them 7th in terms of drama at where we are right now.
No, Joel Embiid is going to win the MVP. And again, winning solves everything. So I think it's going to be fine. Now, number 8, this is another good pick of mine. Similar for the Gobert trade, I picked the Atlanta Hawks because they made a big trade for DeJounte Murray. And my thought was, is he going to work well with Trae Young? And he hasn't. Like, it's not like it's been ugly. Like, the Minnesota situation has been ugly. The Hawks were just like a perfectly mediocre team. And like alarmingly exactly mediocre, where they had a run of like 50 consecutive games where they were never more than 1 win above or 1 loss below being 500. And then like their offensive rating, meaning the number of points they scored a game, was like equal to their defensive rating, which was the number of points they give up in a game. Their point differential was like 0.1. So just like total number of points allowed versus points scored averaged over the season. Like, they were the most average team you could ever be. So it wasn't like a bad situation.
Yeah. They were, as the kids say, mid.
The middest of mid. Super duper mid. And I think that there was still some drama. Like, they fired their coach because of this. They brought in a new coach. There's questions about, is Trae Young a worthy star? Like, all this sorts of things. Like, there has been a certain amount of drama because they made a big move and then they didn't get much better. Like, they got a little bit better. So it's pretty similar to the Timberwolves situation.
Right. Next up, I went with the Pelicans, mainly because my speculation was that I didn't think Zion wanted to be there long term. I guess I can't say that was accurate, but the more accurate thing would have just been to say that I don't know how much he wants to or has the ability to stay on a basketball court, period. That's kind of the narrative with Zion at this point in his career, is like, yes, he is unbelievably talented, almost in a way that doesn't make sense when you look at his body and then you're able to see what he's able to do athletically. But ultimately for the Pelicans, I would say a pretty disappointing season.
Right. It was disappointing in that they didn't play super well. Then towards the end of the year, they played fantastically. And if we recorded this episode 2 weeks ago, this would have been an atrocious pick. But in the past, like 2 weeks, much to what you're describing with Zion, like the GM and CJ McCollum, the best or second best player in the team, probably second best behind Brandon Ingram, have called out Zion saying like, yeah, he's injured and there's only so much you can do. But the two of them very heavily implied that they think that he might not be working as hard as he can be to get back on the court, whether that is workouts or diet or a combination, because it's all sorts of those things to recover from an injury. They just don't know that he's putting in the most effort. And this is now kind of the third season where Zion's had a lot of injury stuff going on and conditioning is coming into question. So though maybe your reasoning wasn't right in that it was Zion like wanting to leave, I think you're still like on the money where it's like, is Zion's heart in it? Because now the Pelicans are getting frustrated because he's supposed to be like the team.
Yeah, I was accurate in so much as Zion would be the source of the drama.
So I think still a solid pick. Now, number 10, I picked the Clippers, wondering if they would be healthy, wondering if they would gel together. They did have health concerns, but it happened towards the end of the year. They had some weird stuff where, they had John Wall on the team and then they released him, but they made some trades and things went pretty well. They traded for Eric Gordon. They traded for Miles Plumlee, and then they signed Russell Westbrook after the Lakers got rid of him. And Westbrook's been pretty good on the Clippers, which I love to see as a big Russell Westbrook fan. So they haven't been too dramatic. They have had health issues, but because the rest of the team played pretty well, like it didn't have a lot of drama. I think this one's going to be really similar to the Philly situation, though, where if they don't do well in the playoffs and Paul George is like coming back from injury, if they don't do well in the playoffs, I think that that's going to be a Philly situation where like they got to figure something out. And then there will be a lot of drama because they've made lots of moves to put this team together. They had to trade away a lot of players and picks in order to get Kawhi and Paul George on the team. And unfortunately for them, one of those players was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is probably going to be first team All-NBA, meaning he's one of the top 5 players in the whole league. He's been incredible. So it's going to be one of those like, was this trade worth it? We could have just kept this guy who was already on our team situations. So again, I think this is a defer till the playoffs are finished pick.
I picked the Warriors next. At that time, it was very much influenced by the Draymond Green, Jordan Poole drama, and also just the pressure to repeat. And I would say that's mostly accurate. I mean, they certainly underachieved this year in terms of what they expected of themselves and probably what the league expected. They also had an incredibly bizarre year where they were dominant at home and abysmal on the road. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, I would certainly say that if they lose round 1, which it looks like they probably will, there's no way to frame that other than it being a hugely disappointing season. I don't know how dramatic it was, but it's certainly getting more and more dramatic as the season closes out with Draymond stepping on chests and getting suspended. So I'm all right with where I put the Warriors on that list.
Yeah, it's solid. There's been some drama just because they haven't played well, which isn't as fun as something spicy. But yeah, they were just like bad. Like Jordan Poole wasn't very good this year, and they just signed him to a big contract, and that's not what you want. So I think that's been that. Now, number 12, a good pick and good reasoning, but I should have put them higher. The Dallas Mavericks were my pick. And I said, maybe Luka would be upset that the Mavs didn't add another star. I was wrong because they did add Kyrie Irving, another star, but unfortunately they got way worse after they did that, which you and I predicted very much on the nose when they made that trade. So I was right to pick the drama here, but maybe not necessarily the right reason. And we haven't even talked about the Mavericks situation where they got fined $750,000 by the league for intentionally tanking the last game of the season against your Chicago Bulls so that they would have a higher chance of not giving their draft pick to my beloved New York Knicks. It was a situation where if they lost this game on purpose, they would remove their chances of getting into the play-in tournament, and their odds of holding on to their pick would basically flip-flop from like 20% chance of keeping it to 80% chance of keeping it. They still do have a 20% chance of losing it and giving it to the Knicks. And if that doomsday situation happens, I will Schadenfreude all the way home, because then they will have made Luka upset because he wanted to keep playing. They will have gotten fined $750,000 in the league because they tanked and made it very obvious. And Jason Kidd in the post-game press conference was basically like, yeah, they told me to lose the game on purpose because they were actively subbing out any player that was playing well, and they already arrested a bunch of people, and they didn't play Luka Doncic past the first quarter. Like the most blatant tank job in recent memory.
I just don't know why they didn't think that that would be an issue, because as long as you're still mathematically viable for the play-in, you have to try for it, right? Like it was, they didn't even try to do it in a subtle manner. It was blatant with them.
And I think that's what it comes down to, is you can look at some of these other teams like the Jazz and the Blazers, who shut down some players towards the end of the season saying it's for injury concerns, basically just punting on the year, but it's all the optics.
Like what the Thunder did with Gilgeous-Alexander last year.
Right. Like it's all optics of, could you say like, oh, is it really better if you give up with 3 games left in the year versus if you give up with a month and a half left in the year? And it's purely just like the Mavericks literally had a chance where if they won the final 3 games of the season and certain people lost certain games, they would be in the play-in. And they just like intentionally lost the penultimate game so that they could have a better chance of keeping their pin. It's purely optics. So pretty solid draft pick. Probably should have been higher, but glad I at least identified them as a top half drama team.
So with my next pick, it saddened me at the time and it saddens me now. I went with my beloved Chicago Bulls, and I'll be honest, I was pretty dead on. My big concerns were Lonzo Ball's health, and sadly for him and for the Bulls and for the league in general, his injuries persisted, and now there's some real concern about him ever being able to play again, period. He missed the entire season. There are continued complications with his knee. He just can't seem to get it right. I was also concerned about Zach LaVine not living up to his max deal that he had signed in the offseason. I would say that I was probably wrong about that. I think he played really well and also improved his defense a lot, which had always been a big concern for him. But ultimately, I said I think their ceiling is a play-in team. If their injuries persist, that's exactly what happened. And it's a little bit like adding DeJounte Murray to the Hawks, where it's like, yes, the Bulls have some great players, but do they really gel cohesively as a team? And even if they had Lonzo Ball, what would their ceiling have been? So the Bulls were kind of strange in that they did literally nothing at the trade deadline. They ultimately added Patrick Beverley off of waivers, and I think that did help their team. But they're kind of in the worst spot you can be in the NBA, which is like not competitive enough to really go for it, not bad enough to get a shot at Wembanyama or any of the other top draft picks. So I think, sadly, it's time to blow it up. I don't expect DeRozan to be back next year, and obviously LaVine should be there for a while, but we'll see what they do. They certainly have money to spend, but it was kind of a bummer of a season, and as a result, I owe you both a date, and I have to pay for it. So
look, I'm a cheap date. We can do something free. We can just walk in the park. I'm down for it.
No, that's not right. I'll do something.
So next pick, 14, I picked the Blazers. I said they've given Dame his big contract, but what is the plan? They're not tanking, but they're not competitive. And that was exactly what happened. And I think picking them 14 is fine, where it's like middle sort of drama, or like disappointing season where they were starting off the year kind of hot. And then it was a situation of like, are they even going to make the play in? And then they lost some games. And then so it wasn't necessarily as much drama, but I picked them as like a middle drama team, and I think that's what it was. Like it was disappointing, and there's question marks about, as there always are, and I guess always will be, if Dame is going to stick around. What's the point? What's the plan? What's going on? And that's what happened.
Yeah. My next pick was the Nuggets. I definitely was wrong about that. My big question mark was Jamal Murray's health, and I'm happy to say that was not really an issue. And the Nuggets were and are fantastic, and I think are realistically title contenders. Weirdly, I think despite how good they were in the regular season, people still don't consider them in that tier. I'm not sure how fair that is. But I mean, I think in a year where there's been a lot of parity, they have as good a shot as anybody. And they almost never lose at home. And the fact that they're going to have home court for, I guess, the entire playoffs certainly works to their advantage. They've just won the first 2 games in Denver in their series against the Timberwolves. I think they're probably going to roll over them pretty easily. And we'll see. But Jokic is amazing as always. Jamal Murray's been really good. And they've just been a fun team to watch.
Yeah, I think the only drama was that they had a weird thing towards the end of the year where they were kind of losing steam and not being as good. And they started off the year really hot. Usually you want to do the reverse where you have momentum going into the playoffs. But yeah, aside from that, not a whole lot of drama.
I think the biggest drama around the Nuggets was you and I figuring out that Ball makes missiles.
Yeah, so about that, I don't know that they make missiles. I tried to look into it further when I was making a tweet for it. I think they just do aerospace. They might some companies like Lockheed Martin say they do aerospace, but it's them making missiles. Ball might just only do aerospace after I was trying to look into stuff. So
I'm willing to admit I was wrong.
It was very, very hasty, half-done research on our part mid-recording, but I think they might only do aerospace. But still, mason jars and rockets, pretty intense.
Oh, yeah.
So number 16, my pick was the Grizzlies. And again, a good pick, but how could I have predicted all of what happened? But should have been a lot higher. I said high expectations. And I said John Morant would be an issue of drama, but for his play, not for his off-court situation. But then correction, it's funny because as you did the summary of the notes here, I said they're big trash talkers and they have high potential for on-court and off-court drama. They've had both.
Yeah, well, you talked about John Morant's defensive inefficiencies. I don't know if you were alluding to him having a defense lawyer, but quite a rough year in Memphis for Ja, just continuing to do really foolish things and jeopardize his entire career. So hopefully that's behind him. But yeah, between that and Dylan Brooks shoving cameramen and all that business, I would say certainly if we were re-ranking, the Grizzlies would be much higher than 16.
But how would we have predicted it?
Certainly a top 10 drama team. Yeah. Now with number 17, I am happy for your sake that I was wrong about this one. I picked the Knicks. And I don't regret the pick. I figured it would be high expectations for Jalen Brunson, which he has absolutely lived up to, if not exceeded. And also that Tibbs could be on the chopping block if the Knicks got off to a slow start. Tibbs, of course, being Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks coach. And I do think that would have been true, but the Knicks were really good this year and they were really consistent for a lot of the year. I think early on they were a little streaky and then they kind of settled into who they were. They had that one long winning streak, but other than that, they were just a consistently solid team. Ended the season 5th in the East. They're now tied 1-1 with the Cavs, and I think they have a pretty good chance to win that series. So I'm sure you're thrilled with how the Knicks season went. It would be, I tell you what, our friendship is so good that I'm rooting for the Knicks. That's how I feel.
Let's go. Hey, and I was rooting for the Bulls. I was very happy to see them win their first game. So yeah, I enjoy us rooting for each other's teams when they're not playing each other. But yeah, I was offended when you picked the Knicks at 17, and I am glad that
it's not that high. I picked the Bulls before the Knicks in my defense.
I had a lot of confidence in Jalen Brunson, the Brunson burner, and I am just very excited that we were good. It was fun. It's been a fun, silly little year that we put together.
Yeah. Well, on your behalf and one of our loyal listeners, Freddie Lopez, I do hope that the Knicks get it done for you, and then we'll see how it goes. I mean, more than likely they would be playing the Bucks in the second round, which is not fun for anyone. But
bring us Giannis. Let's go.
You never know.
Make it happen. I think we can start going pretty quickly through these remaining ones. So Kings at 18, I said they really went for it. They should be a play-in team. They just exceeded expectations. Absolutely no drama. And this was kind of like if they aren't good, there will be drama pick. So similar situation of I don't regret the pick, but in hindsight, there's been no drama in Sacramento. Yeah. They're great, and it's so fun to watch. Shout out to the Beam team.
Yeah, light that beam if you want to waste as much energy as using a dishwasher once. The 19th pick, I went with the Cavaliers, mainly just because of the expectations that come with acquiring a player like Donovan Mitchell. It kind of was a situation like the Timberwolves where if you trade for Gobert and you give up a bunch of players and it doesn't work out for you, it looks really bad. But in the Cavs case, Donovan Mitchell is really good. He literally dropped 70 points on the Bulls in a game this year, which is not a fond memory for me, but he is very good, and it kind of worked out for everyone. I think the Cavs got a great player in Mitchell. Obviously, there was a lot of speculation that he would end up in New York, but I think the Knicks getting Brunson worked out very well for them too. So yeah, Cavs have been really good. Now they face off against the Knicks, and also kind of a very likable team. I think I would probably root for them if they weren't playing the Knicks, but yeah, it wasn't a particularly dramatic year in Cleveland.
Yeah, and also good for Lauri Markkanen, who went to the Jazz. kind of revitalized his career by being on a new team in a new situation. So good all around. It's been nice for everyone there. Number 20, I picked the Heat. I just thought Jimmy Butler might bring some drama, and he's getting a bit older, and the team might underperform. Jimmy Butler balled out of his mind. So that was an incorrect part there. The Heat were a bit of a disappointment this year, though, and just kind of like, you know, just not bad enough to be supremely dramatic, but just one of those things, kind of like the Warriors, where everyone was like, when are the Heat going to win some more games? And then they just kind of found their way into the bottom part of the playoffs. But look, they're still in the mix, and Giannis is hurt right now. So like, they're not out of it. And playoff Jimmy is back as he always is, and he's playing out of his mind. So we'll see. But yeah, the Heat were disappointing, but not so much so that it would be bad. So I think 20 was kind of an accurate spot for them.
Yeah. My next pick was the Orlando Magic. It was really predicated on whether or not Paolo Banchero would be good right out of the gate, and he was. He averaged 20 points, 7 rebounds, and almost 4 assists. He's a very good player. The Magic were garbage, but that wasn't a surprise to anyone. So not a lot of drama in Orlando that I can think of.
And I think now we're getting into the situation where we're 22 to 30. These are the teams we were picking to not be dramatic. So at 22, I picked the Bucks. I was like, Middleton was hurt and they have high expectations, but Middleton came back and they won a lot of games. So I think correct pick there.
Yeah. One of our most fun picks that we were wrong about early on was the Jazz, because the speculation was that they would be the worst team in basketball, and they were not. They weren't good, but they actually were more competitive.
Started off so hot
than anybody thought they would be, and also started the season pretty hot. Yeah. Now, I don't know what their attendance was like. I speculated that because of the fact that folks in Utah have gotten used to a very competitive team for much of the last few decades, that they might kind of be impatient, but I don't know. I think it was probably fine. And the Jazz clearly won the Gobert trade and are set up for a very successful future. So not so bad in Jazzland after all.
Yeah, 24, I picked the Pistons, thinking they wouldn't be dramatic because they should be improving. But if they don't, the fans might get frustrated. And I think that this ended up working out as a correct pick because unfortunately, they were the worst team in basketball this year, but it was because their best player got hurt.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where like, can't really be mad as a Pistons fan because if Cade Cunningham is out for pretty much the entire season, you will be a very bad basketball team.
Right. And if they get Wembanyama and they pair him with Cade Cunningham and the other pieces that they have, I think they could be a lot better, a lot quicker than anybody expected. And I would imagine folks in Detroit would be quite happy about that.
Yeah. So I think 24 ended up being a pretty solid pick.
Yeah. My next pick, I went with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I had concerns about the rebuild not going as fast as people wanted, especially after Chet Holmgren, their top pick, getting injured in the offseason. I also was a little concerned with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being shut down as he had the previous year if he had any injuries. That didn't happen. He was, as you alluded to before, he'll be top 3, top 5 in MVP voting probably, despite how crappy the Thunder ended up being. But actually, that's probably not even fair. I mean, the Thunder ended up being a play-in team, which is probably better than anybody expected. So... And I also think the future is very bright in OKC, so not a lot of drama that I can recall.
No, a very solid pick there. And mine, this one here, not a solid pick for me. 26, I said the Wizards, just because like I don't think the team's going to be very good, and there wasn't a lot of drama there, but like I don't know. I think they were worse. I thought the Wizards would be kind of like the Bulls, where I thought the Wizards would like get into the play-in and then lose and be like, we tried, but I think they were a step below what people are expecting. So I think that drama was a bit higher. I think there's more frustration going around in DC.
Right. My next pick was the Indiana Pacers. I felt that there might be continued impatience from the fan base about the direction of the team, just because they're a little bit like the Bulls, where it's like, what are you trying to do exactly? And also that I didn't know what they might do with some of the pieces that there was a lot of trade value for folks like Miles Turner. I can't really think of any super specific drama that the Pacers had this year.
27 was a perfect pick. Yeah, not dramatic, because again, I think everyone like the Jazz thought they were going to be pretty bad, and they started off the season quite well. It teetered off a bit, but Tyrese Halliburton absolutely balled out, so much so that they like didn't make some big trades that people were expecting. So so
he was an all-star.
27's great. They were not dramatic at all. This was a pick that I was quite bad on, picking the Raptors at 28. They were much more dramatic because I was operating under the assumption that the Raptors would be good, which most people were. Like, I feel like a lot of people were picking the Raptors to be like number 4 or number 5 or number 6 in the East. And they were just pretty bad and ended up losing in the play-in tournament. And Scotty Barnes
to the Bulls.
And Scotty Barnes had a frustrating year, and they were far more dramatic. So I big whiff here at 28 for me.
Yeah. Our last 2 picks, I think we did pretty well. We had a couple Texas teams. I had the Rockets. Mainly, I had them that low because it's like everybody who's a Houston fan and an NBA fan knows what they're doing. Like, they are trying to be bad, and they were bad. And that's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah. And number 30, I said the Spurs, which I think they probably were the least dramatic team. Like, yeah. I think I absolutely knocked this out of the park. Because even the Rockets had like a little bit of drama with like some particular players being... and like they had the coaching situation where they fired their coach and all this stuff. The Spurs, there was like nothing. It was like, we're bad, we're going to be bad, and we're trying to get Wemby.
The only drama with the Spurs ever is that Greg Popovich is opinionated and has the correct opinions, by the way. But then there's a certain segment of the internet that's like, he should just talk about basketball. I don't want to hear what he says about gun violence.
Yeah, whack. But there was a bit of Spurs drama very, very, very early in the season where Josh Primo was like exposing himself to a woman who worked for the team. But that was like literally like week 2, and then everything got settled. So like that would be the only drama. But as far as like basketball related drama, like none of that really took place. And Greg Popovich had a great quote, because the one thing I pointed out was like, you know, maybe there's some pop-related drama if he talks about retiring or if this team ends up being too good. Like, I weirdly kind of predicted the Jazz situation for the Spurs, so I kind of mixed the teams where I was like, maybe the team will be good, even though they're supposed to be bad. But Pop had this really great quote where he, you know, people are saying like, you know, you're getting close to retiring, and is this how you want to spend your final years coaching this team that's like not good and they're young? And he was honest and said like, you know, every now and then I think to myself, like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? Like, we have no shot of winning. But then he said something to the effect of, and then I see these young guys start to get it, and I realize this is the happiest I've been, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So like, it's cool to see Pop, who is this storied coach with this history of winning and was so intense, and the Spurs had this whole dynasty, to see him be perfectly satisfied with just coaching some young folks and trying to put together a new core. That is awesome. I love that for Pop. He's got his head on his shoulders perfectly, especially like you're saying, using a presser of a pre-game meeting for a basketball game to talk for 10 straight minutes about gun violence instead, and talk about how our politicians need to get their act together and get it out of there. Like, dude has his priorities straight, and we should all aspire to live our lives like Greg Popovich. He's got it. He's doing it right, man.
Totally. Much like the noted candy from our childhood, Pop rocks.
Pop rocks indeed. Thanks for listening to this episode of Horse. Horse is hosted by Adam Amawala and Mike Schubert. Our editor is Kensei Saramaki. Kensei, thank you so much for a lovely, lovely time in Kyoto. Thanks for being our tour guide for the trip through the town. It was wonderful. The website is by Kelly Schubert, who also enjoyed being shown around Kyoto. The music is by Bettina Campamanas. The social media is by both of the Horse Boys, and the art is by Allison Wheat.
Thank you to our producer-level patrons, Polly Burge, Kendra Hadley, Salvatore Testa, Trust the Process, Siobhan Ellsbury, He Sells Seashells. Damn it! No, I had such a good streak for so long, and now I just can't do it. Don't Go Chasing Taco Falls, Bang, Bang, Roast Beef Debris, Kate the Conqueror, Basketball is Life 2, Denver Steam Nuggets, Anna Reed, Weird Questions, Steph Curry for 3, and the tie, no good.
Oh, Draymond Green goaltended it. Weird.
And then stepped on Steph's chest. Not cool. Hi Trish, Ginger Spurs Boy, Nicole Arsenal, Something Mean About the Knicks, Stubby Boardman Gets Paid, Chase Underulo, Mr. Bubbles Plays Ball, and Bunny's Not a Rabbit? Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Horse Hoops, and on Twitter at Horse_Hoops, because
Horse Hoops was the person in Minnesota that decided to make the Rudy Gobert trade. They were actually the driving force.
Ooh, that's tough. That's a tough look. Go to our website, horsehoops.com, for links to many of the things we discussed on today's episode.
And if you want to support the Horse Boys, you can go to patreon.com/horsehoops and get access to bonus content. And then you just know that your support is helping us make this show and cover costs of making the show, like editing and transcripts and websites and hosting fees and all the stuff that goes into making the pod. We very much appreciate it. And you can get access to a bunch of really cool stuff. You can get physical merchandise as well. Lots of good stuff. Speaking of merchandise, you can go to horsehoops.com/merch. You can get stuff nerds, it's basketball shirts or digital merchandise. A lot of good things over there. We're going to close out this episode, as we always do, by putting our hands in the middle and saying something on the count of 3. You feeling anything in particular?
You know what? I'm feeling good vibes for your team because I hope that when we next record an episode in a few weeks, they are still in the playoffs. So I'm going to give you a go Knicks.
Oh, I love it. I very much appreciate it, and I appreciate the energy. So let's do it. Go Knicks on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Go Knicks!
Please,
Ooh,
Knicks.
I can't believe I said that out loud, but it's for you. It's all for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Knicks. You can do it. You can do it. I believe in you, Knicks. You can do it. It's going to be fun. You can do it. Imagine if we got to the second round. It'd be so fun.